It's another episode of the Just My Take podcast. This is Dex PC5. Hope you all are doing well on this Sunday. I'm recording this right now, Sunday afternoon. Just want to start off by thanking all my subscribers, old returning subscribers, for always listening to the latest episode of Just My Take podcast. I appreciate it so much. For new subscribers, you can hear me on iTunes, Spotify, all podcasts and platforms. Share the words, share it to your friends. I really appreciate it. I'm still working on the YouTube thing. I've been a little in a funk lately. So I've been a little lazy and trying to upload to the show. So I got to get better at working on that and just upload as many shows as possible. But in the meantime, still share it via podcast. 'Cause I think a lot more people are listening to podcasts than YouTube. So it'll be really good if you could just share amongst your friends and family. This episode, we're just going to talk about Andrew Luck. For those who don't know, Andrew Luck, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, has retired from the NFL. Was breaking news. I think I received the news. We all received it around, I think, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It happened during a Colts preseason game, actually. So Andrew Luck was on the sidelines, actually, when the news broke out. So it's kind of weird how it all turned out. So for my sports fans, this is going to be a good episode. We're going to talk into why Andrew Luck retired, my opinion on it, and where they go from here. So Andrew Luck, I remember this guy coming out of Stanford. He was the number one pick. People are saying he was the second coming in terms of great young quarterbacks. Bona fide number one pick. A type of guy where you pick this person, he's going to change your franchise for the next decade. You know, there's a few generational superstars like that, like say LeBron James, Zion, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Elway, guys like that. And so when Andrew Luck got picked by the Colts, it was like, wow, the Colts they just let go of Peyton Manning, who's a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning went on to go to Denver, and he won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. And the Colts just kind of, they luckily got to Andrew Luck, and they were able to have some success with him. The issues with Andrew Luck is that, he's 29 years old. He's retired with millions of dollars. I mean, his father is very well connected in the football scene. His father is actually going to be the new commissioner of Vince McMahon's XFL upcoming next year, spring 2020. So Andrew Luck's family, I mean, they definitely have money. And Andrew Luck is a smart kid. I mean, he went to graduate from Stanford. Obviously, probably knows how to do well with his investments. I think it comes down, when I first got this news, I was very shocked. Because I thought, I haven't seen a retirement like this from football since maybe the 90s, where it was like Barry Sanders. And I know some people were really just mentioning like Barry Sanders and Jim Brown in terms of shock retirements, guys in their prime where they just walked away from the game. I think Andrew Luck, great talent. Some people are saying glass body, which is kind of true. This guy just had so many injuries, unfortunately. And so it's always a case of like, when Andrew Luck is healthy, you're going to have a good season from him. But you never knew how long that was going to be, because Andrew Luck always got injured. And I remember upcoming this year, he got injured. People were wondering before preseason how healthy he's going to be. Last year, the Colts had a phenomenal season in which they made to the playoffs. I thought they were building something great. I finally thought that the Colts were finally getting their act together and surrounding Andrew Luck with good building block pieces to finally get some success for Andrew Luck. And I really thought the Colts were going to be potentially the next dynasty in the AFC. I really thought that the way they were building, a lot of pundits said, hey, the Colts are going to be for real. So I think it comes as a shock for everyone, especially Colts Nation, that Andrew Luck, who's pretty much the linchpin of this franchise, is leaving. It's still a little shocking. I think in terms of Andrew Luck himself, I saw his press conference. This was just a guy who's just been mentally worn down by the injuries. You could just tell his love of the game for football just depleted. And I know there's some people on Twitter who are, shitting on him and saying, oh, what a punk pussy move that he did. Again, I sometimes this is where fans it's a bad look as fans. And some fans were booing Andrew Luck when the game was over, which is crazy given how much success Andrew Luck has given to that Colts franchise over the years. Granted, just because the guy did not bring you a Super Bowl doesn't mean that this guy did not bring you joys and playoff wins and success the past few years. It could have been much worse. There's a lot more franchises that would trade places with Colts fans in a minute to have just a fraction of Andrew Luck's success compared to what they had the past few years. So, I felt there's fans that are always going to criticize the athletes. And I think it's just because they're trying to see it through their circumstances. Yeah, I mean, athletes are making millions of dollars. They're paid to entertain. This is the world we live in, where entertainment people get paid much more. Movie stars, musicians, athletes, they get paid more because they are in the entertainment spirit. Comedians too. Life is hard. A lot of people are going through some tough shit. Even people who are successful, they're going through some tough shit. And entertainment is a form to kind of get away from that. It's a kind of a legal form to get away from it. Because for a lot of people, it's entertainment. A lot of other people, they go to the bad forms of entertainment, such as drugs and alcohol and all types of bad shit. But, for me, I'd rather trade watching a sports game and comedy as opposed to doing the other shit. That's just my personal opinion. But everyone has different circumstances. I'm not going to go down that road. What I will say is these people get paid a lot. That's just the name of the game. They get paid a lot. And so I think for the blue-collar worker who's working 10 hours a day at a steel mill or at a factory and just really, they're just tired and they can't fathom how an athlete can go through it. But I just think until you're in that circumstance, you just don't understand how it is. You can't see it through your lens, unfortunately. That's just the name of the game. Because think about how many successful people do we know that unfortunately take their own lives because of depression, because of mental health issues, because they're worn down, they're beat up. And everyone from the outside is like, how could this person do it? He makes millions of dollars. Money isn't everything. And it's crazy coming from me saying that because, I value money. And my personal philosophy is like, hey, if you have money, you're able to it's easier to change some circumstances of your life compared to if you don't have money. That, I believe that. But it isn't everything. I think for a lot of people, like myself, financial freedom is the goal. Being able to live life where you don't have to worry about money problems is probably the ultimate goal for a lot of the majority of people in this world. So once you have that, you can kind of do your own thing. And so I think when people are evaluating Andrew Luck, I think they gotta just see it through his eyes. Andrew Luck has a lot of money, millions of dollars. He's able to just walk away from the game and keep his health intact because football is a dangerous sport, as people know. You're seeing a lot more of these football players retire early. I think people like Tom Brady playing till they're in their 40s is not going to be the norm 10 years from now. I think you're going to see a lot of players kind of, play until maybe their early 30s, and then they're like, all right, I'm out. I'm leaving. I don't want to end up like guys in the 70s and 80s who can barely walk and they got CTE and they got this. Like, I want to keep my body intact. I'm financially good. I want to live my life and be healthy. And in Andrew Luck's press conference, he talked about that. How he said, listen, 2016, he was coming through a gruesome injury and he vowed he didn't want to be in that. And I think recently he was in that same situation. He sat back, evaluated probably, and he's like, yeah, I'm out. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I think it takes a lot for him to walk away, because especially since last year was probably one of his best career seasons. The Colts were coming in as a possible contender for the Super Bowl. So for Andrew Luck to walk away from all of that, it kind of shows like, yo, this guy was just not in a good place emotionally and mentally and physically, and he could not go through another season again. I think a lot of fans, we don't, because we're not athletes, we're not in that position, it's very hard for us to understand. Guys like Andrew Luck, they get injured. They have to go through the grueling rehab, the surgery, first of all, which is mentally, anyone who has surgery, especially a major one, it's scary. It's scary. It's on your mind. You don't know how the outcome's going to be. You're very scared. Now multiply that times five for an athlete where, hey, any injury could alter your playing career. And you only have X amount of years to maximize your dollars with your playing career. So that's already a mental drain. And then not only that, the amount of people who depend on you for that money, managers, agents, family, etc., who depend on you to be healthy. I mean, Andrew Luck was one of the faces. He was the face of the Indianapolis Colts. He's one of the faces of the NFL. He was dependent on by a lot of people. So that mentally hurts you. So we're talking about just a surgery. You do the surgery, successful. Then you got to go through the rehab, the physical therapy. I've done just a little bit of physical therapy in my lifetime. That shit is tough. That shit is really mentally tough. It's hard. And now you're an athlete, and this physical, everyone's watching your physical therapy to see if you are okay. Are you gonna get back to how you were before you got injured? And that is extremely tough to do, because not only are you fighting your body to get back to normal, but you're fighting your mind. Can I do this again? Can I do the same steps again? If I'm healthy, can I do the same moves again? That fucks with a lot of athletes' minds. A lot of basketball players that are known for their explosiveness, and then they get an injury in their leg, and then you see them come back on the court, and they're not as explosive as they used to be, or they're very hesitant to use the same mannerisms that they used to do. It happens all the time. So you got that going. So you got the rehab going. And then you have millions of dollars behind you. So people are watching. Media's watching. The owners are watching. General managers watching. And there's pressure to get right and come back. If we as fans are going to sit there and be like, oh, I don't know how Andrew can go through this. After months before of seeing what the fuck happened to Kevin Durant during the NBA Finals. That happened, June is 2 months ago. And seeing what Kevin Durant put himself through just to try to get back to the finals because of pressure, you can see how that could go on Andrew Luck. And I think, and then you get back and you're playing football again, and you're dealing with the highs and lows in your body, and certain body parts just don't recover, and you're playing your quarterback, you're playing in a position where people are trying to take you out. I think after a while, Andrew Luck was just like, I can't do this shit anymore. I can't keep trying to mentally and emotionally and physically come back from an injury and play hard. It's just it's not right. And I think it's bullshit that, especially a lot of these analysts, Doug Gottlieb throwing shots at Andrew Luck, saying, like, pretty much essentially calling him a pussy because he wants to leave. It's tasteless and annoying to me, honestly. I think Andrew Luck, being a smart guy, thought about this he thought about this. And, I think he just needed a break. He was burnt out. And I do think, part of me does think that Andrew Luck will come back to football at some point. I just think he needed to get away from the situation. I think it's wrong timing, the way he left. But, come on. And there's been a growing trend of NFL players retiring early, especially, near 30. You saw Charlie Johnson with the Detroit Lions. I remember, I think it was Patrick Bowles of the 49ers. You're just seeing a lot of NFL players, they get that first contract, they kind of play it through, and then they're like, all right, I'm done. I want to, live and be okay. I don't really care as much for the Super Bowl anymore. It's just not valued the same as, let me play until I'm in my 40s and I'll destroy myself. Especially as people live longer, you want to be able to enjoy your body. You don't want to go through CTE. There's just too many cases of people lives destroyed by CTE and whatnot. So I feel for Andrew Luck at this moment. I really do. I try to picture people in their shoes and see, and when I saw the news, I was just like, yeah, I think he just got tired of trying to come back from injury. And listen, at the end of the day, happiness and your mental health happiness is just important. It's the most important thing. Again, there are people that make tons of money and they go through shit too, just because we're all human beings, man. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We gotta take care of your body and your mental. You gotta do that. And I think Andrew Luck made a good decision. He made a good decision. Listen, football will go on. People who are upset that about their fantasy draft and yada yada. This shit happens. Okay, people get injured. People walk away from the game. They're athletes. They're human beings. They don't owe you a fucking thing. Andrew Luck is free to do what he wants to do, and I support it. I support this shit. I don't care. I'm not calling him a pussy. Football is a tough fucking sport to play. I just played maybe 4 years in high school. I didn't play college. I definitely didn't play NFL. It is a tough fucking sport to play. All right, and this is Andrew Luck, who is a premier quarterback, has been playing all his life, and he had to walk away from the game. Simple as that. He was too tired, mentally tired, emotionally drained. You could see it in the press conference. He was just done. Because think about the manner in which he did it. Retiring during a preseason game, few weeks, like literally 2 weeks before the season's supposed to start. That to me knew that he couldn't fucking do it anymore. He couldn't go through another year of trial and tribulations of a football season. That's what it just came down to. I definitely personally, know that factor of sometimes you just don't want to be at this current place of work and you want to keep it moving and just take a break or do something else. And listen, we all do that. Like when we switch jobs, a lot of Americans, we switch our jobs all the time, but yet we are confused when athletes do it or athletes want to take a break. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, the Colts. Listen, I also think that part of it, when we hear the story this week, I think it's going to be a big story this week. Jim Irsay and the way he and Andrew Luck's relationship has been. Jim Irsay has not been the best owner. He's kind of a drunk. He kind of says wild, crazy shit. I know he's kind of taken digs at Andrew Luck before, saying that Andrew Luck is maybe not right between the ears. I don't know if it was a dig at Andrew Luck in terms of, okay, maybe Andrew Luck isn't mentally strong, which I find to be false, or if there's something else going on that he knows about. But Jim Irsay, the Colts in this situation, everyone's talking about how the Colts lucked on two Hall of Fame type quarterbacks, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and they only had like one Super Bowl to show for, or two, whatever. Just one. This is very similar to Green Bay, because with Green Bay, we have Brett Favre, we have Aaron Rodgers, we only have two Super Bowls each. And it goes to show you can have great quarterbacks that can lead your franchise for the next decade, but you have to surround the team you have to surround that player with quality players. Green Bay, for the longest time, has rested on their laurels, depend on Aaron Rodgers to carry the franchise. They did the same shit with Brett Favre. I mean, they somewhat made Brett Favre's teams a little bit better, but there was work to be done. The Colts, the same situation. I remember for at least 4 years where the Colts, it was just Andrew Luck. They didn't even have good offensive weapons. There was like really no one around. Besides maybe Reggie Wayne, but other than that, it was just really Andrew Luck. Until they brought in like a new GM and a new coach that finally righted the ship and was adding in decent building blocks for Andrew Luck. That's why I felt, damn, if he didn't retire, he might have been able to really enjoy maybe the next 4 or 5 years of really good success, because now he would have had some true talent to help him out. I think Jim Irsay, I mean, he's been accused, he's been caught with a DUI before. I think having a tumultuous owner probably fucked with Andrew Luck, probably graded on him a little bit, and I think we're going to find out more behind the scenes stuff regarding Andrew Luck and Jim Irsay and the Colts organization. It may not be all sunshine and rainbows. I think if anything that we learned in the current climate of sports, the teams that seem stable, the teams that seem, everything's great and yada, 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 we come to later find out there was all this drama internally. It just didn't get leaked out, but there was drama internally. I think every football team has drama. I think every football team goes through some crazy shit. It's just that some teams are better at keeping things in-house than others. Think about it. The San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan retires. For the longest time, everyone thought, okay, the Spurs didn't have no issues, no fights whatsoever. Then Kawhi Leonard happens, LaMarcus Aldridge happens, and we're seeing all this drama with the Spurs that resulted in Kawhi Leonard being traded. The Golden State Warriors, everything was all sunshine and rainbows until Kevin Durant's last season, where we started to hear about the stories of the friction and whatnot. Green Bay Packers, everyone thought everything was all cozy with Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Until we get rid of Mike McCarthy, now we hear all the infighting that happened. The Pittsburgh Steelers, and how they were the beacon of the NFL and such great relations. To find out what happened with Antonio Brown and Big Ben and Le'Veon Bell. Even the New England Patriots, who are still winning championships. But the friction between Brady and Belichick and Garoppolo and that internal gripe and struggle. So what I'm saying is that it could happen anywhere. And I think the Colts are not immune, especially the way Jim Irsay has conducted themselves the past few years. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So what happens with the Colts going forward? Jacoby Brissett will take over as the quarterback. I do think the Colts need a trade for a quarterback. If I'm the Colts, I do not waste a year trying to draft high. I'm not sure if Trevor Lawrence from Clemson is coming out to the NFL this year. I think he has one more year. Maybe they can go for Tua, but honestly, I would just trade for a quarterback. I was looking at some scenarios at CBSSports.com. Hey, you know what? Maybe the Colts trade one of their second-round picks for Eli Manning. Eli gets to start fresh in Indianapolis. New York gets to move on with Daniel Jones in that new era. Eli gets away from New York and maybe is able to have a decent situation in Indianapolis and, try to compete for the playoffs again. Something like that. Maybe a Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe a Colin Kaepernick, who knows. I think the Colts need to just try to get another quarterback. I don't think they should rest their laurels just with Jacoby Brissett. I think the Colts finally have some building blocks to actually make a run, which is more shocking. I think people are more shocked that Andrew Luck is retiring, given how good the Colts finally are, and how it's like, damn, the Colts finally got their act together and built Andrew Luck a good team. Now Andrew Luck is leaving. I think they're more shocked about that as opposed to like Andrew Luck just leaving because he's just tired of fucking football and injuries. I think that if you were to poll people, that's what it is. So the Colts, I think, need to get a quarterback ASAP. I think if you're the AFC South rivals, the Jaguars, the Titans, and Texans, this is a year to cap. I think if you're the Houston Texans, and if you do not win this fucking division and go far in the playoffs, you need to get rid of Bill O'Brien. That team has a lot of talent. I heard Lamar Miller got an ACL injury this year, but they still got Deshaun Watson. Houston, you got to make some fucking moves and dominate this division now that the Colts are knocked down a peg. I expect Houston to have a big year. If not, get rid of Bill O'Brien, the head coach, and find something else. The Jaguars, I think they're going to go through some turmoil because with Jalen Ramsey and wanting his money. And the Titans, they were sneaking. I feel they'll still be middle of the pack. I'm not sure. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Marcus Mariota, he gets traded too. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward this upcoming week. I think everyone's going to be tuning into the sports media stuff on Monday to see what the latest is. And hopefully we get more just actual reporting. Not stupid hot takes on, Andrew Luck is a punk or Andrew Luck is scared. Listen, the guy, I just don't think people understand how hard it is to come back from injuries. I think as everyday people, we understand when we have our own injuries, but when it comes to athletes, I think with the popular fanaticism of fantasy sports and video games, we really do look at these players as commodities, and we really don't forget, like, this is a human being. Like, after so many injuries to a person's leg, it is really tough to come back. It's not that fucking easy to come back from. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Andrew Luck. I wish the best for him. I don't believe the conspiracy theory that he might be retiring early so that he can play with his dad's league in the XFL. I think that's very stupid. Andrew Luck is in the prime of his career. Why would he give up a bunch of millions of dollars to be in the XFL when there's no guarantee that the XFL may last beyond a year, to be honest? I mean, look what happened with the AFL. AFL lasted for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then it was kaput. No guarantee Vince McMahon is going to have the XFL running for a couple years as well. No point for Andrew Luck to give up money like that, especially in his prime. I can understand if Andrew Luck was maybe 34 years old and maybe had, a few years left in the tank, and he was like, all right, let me go to this XFL thing. I can, have ownership stake in it, and then I could capitalize and make some money. I'm still a big name star. That would make sense, but at 29 and you have a chance to go out to Super Bowl and the NFL is going to pay you the highest dollar, doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, this has been another episode of the Just My Take podcast. I know it's a short episode, but I just wanted to kind of give my take on the latest with Andrew Luck. And let me know your thoughts about it. I know it's a hot button topic everyone's talking about. We're going to find out more this upcoming weekend. Definitely an interesting start to the NFL season. For everyone who's listened, thank you. You can find this show on iTunes, Spotify, any podcasting platform. You can find me on Instagram, DexPC5, Just My Take Podcast. Click the links in the bio to get access to the show. And share with your friends and family. Help me out. Share with one of your friends and family. Let's boost these ratings up a little bit. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening and taking the time out your Sunday to listen or whenever you listen. This has been another episode of the Just My Take podcast. We'll see what happens with Andrew Luck. And remember, everybody, whether you agree or disagree, it's just my take. Peace.